away we go. Welcome to the pickup meeting. I'm Kevin.
I'm Brody.
Hey, we're going to talk about higher education, student success, and just some random crap.
Yeah, we are.
Isn't that the way this goes?
It's the way it goes. I mean, we're getting good at it.
I will say this is our first spring of recording, and I'm a little nervous. And we talked about this a little bit before the show. It starts to become the tornado season that is in our states that we reside. And so we've had some weather here recently, and I'm like, oh, is the internet going to work? Are things going to hold up? Are we going to be okay? But here we are. We're still making it.
Yeah, you made it.
Yeah.
Are you in a safe space if a tornado were to come during the recording?
No, I mean, in the current space, no. Like if I go down several floors, probably so, but
yeah,
not currently. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, listen, our random topics of just nonsense. I don't think we've really had this conversation, but I'm a Disney adult. I know you're already laughing at me.
I don't really understand what that means. I mean, full disclosure, I'm a Holiday World kid. I grew up in Indiana, southwestern Indiana, and Holiday World was like 45 minutes from my house. And we went to Holiday World. Maybe a Kings Island trip if things got real crazy, right?
Yeah, Holiday World in Santa Claus, Indiana.
Santa Claus, Indiana.
That might be the greatest town name there is.
3 amazing wooden roller coasters, and then they added a water park. And it's just where we went. When we lived away from Indiana and we brought the kids home in the summer, my mom and dad always made sure we went to Holiday World with the kids. And it just kind of had a soft space in my heart. I didn't go to Disney World until I was 30 years old.
This segment of the show is brought to you by Holiday World. We got coasters and we give you Pepsi, and no one wants that crap.
Free sunscreen too, Kevin Thomas.
Oh, and free sunscreen. My bad. I forgot that from the advertisements.
Free soda, free sunscreen.
Yeah, and they don't tell you it's like bad soda. It's Pepsi. Come on.
They had Diet Mountain Dew, and then you could mix it with Gatorade.
Yeah, you know where it doesn't have Pepsi? Disney World. You're welcome. You didn't go till you were 30.
I didn't.
Okay.
And then we took our kids there when they were about 10 and 7, I think. It was an NACADA conference, the annual conference, that October, was it 2010 maybe? I think it was 2010.
Yeah.
That was the first time the kids went to Disney World. By that time they were complaining, right? We're the only kids that have never been to Disney World.
My wife and I always said that we were going to just lie to my kid and be like, that's just a commercial. It's like a movie. Like, it's not real. That being said, we go to Disney a lot, probably, if not yearly, every other year.
What do you like about it? Because I like it. It's fun.
It just feels peaceful. Like, and I know that people are going to think that's crazy if you're not a Disney person, but it feels easy. It feels convenient. It's fun. You're a kid. Like, put me on some rides. Put me on the Avatar ride. Put me on Soarin'.
Great ride.
And I am just like grinning ear to ear, biggest smile, having a great time, just taking it all in. And then like afterwards, I do love this part where it's like, how did they do that? How did they make it? Right? Like, I want to know the details and I want to know how to do it all.
Yeah, I've been to Disney now several times since I was a 30-year-old, right? And it is fun, but man, it's expensive too. Whew.
It is.
It packs a punch.
It does. And I will say 3 years ago, you and I were at Disney at the same time.
Yes.
Pre the NACADA conference. And our wives both said, no, you can't hang out with your friends. It was like, this is our trip.
Yes.
Brody can wait. Kevin can wait.
Yes, absolutely. The Star Wars stuff that they've added. When you walk into the bad place, the Empire place, and all those stormtroopers are sitting there, that's pretty next level.
I'm a big Star Wars guy. I know our producer Matt Markin will at some point now throw in a graphic that is Star Trek related because he's more of a Star Trek guy. I'll just say there's no Star Trek land that I'm aware of. So
No.
Take that, Matt Markin.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's just like the immersion of things. I think the same thing of the Avatar land at night and Star Wars. Any point that you're going in is just kind of you feel like a kid. It doesn't get much better.
I thoroughly enjoy Epcot. The food scene there is really fun. The best steak I've ever had was in Canada, right? Like, we did that special meal and that you can do. Went to Canada and had that steak. Good golly.
Steak in Canada. Good. Sign me up. Oh, here it is.
Way to go, Matt Markin.
For our audio audience, Matt's thrown on a Star Trek versus Star Wars graphic. The answer is, of course, Star Wars. Yeah, that steak, which, we're going to talk a little bit about vegetarian lifestyle today. So let's move beyond the steak and let's focus on the time that we were kids. Listen, you don't know this topic's coming because we didn't really prep this one, but I will say every time I call you, you're playing Fortnite. So are you a video game guy?
No, I'm addicted to Fortnite.
Yeah, you are.
And I'm getting good at it.
According to whom?
Well, I keep winning 0 builds.
I don't know what that means.
I know you don't. It's okay. The people who play Fortnite will understand.
Yeah, never played ever. And I am a video game guy.
Yeah, so I didn't grow up with an Atari 2600. I grew up with a Vectrex.
What is that?
It was this self-contained module, and it had games that were like Atari 2600 games, but it had its own monitor and it had its own controller. It was amazing.
I remember having an Atari for just a hot minute and playing Pong, maybe.
Yeah.
Seems right. But for whatever reason, video game related, it's when Nintendo came out. That's when it just changed, right? You can get to the point where you hear the Super Mario Brothers theme just in your head. And it's let's go. And then that evolved into Sonic and then sports game, Tecmo Super Bowl. Come on. I know I'm jumping from Sega to Nintendo here, but I like some video games. I play some F1 video games now, the racing game. That's a good time.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah. I had the first Nintendo system, and I loved Super Mario Brothers, loved RBI baseball, the little fat guys.
Yeah.
The Cardinals were unstoppable. John Tudor and was the pitcher. Danny Cox was the pitcher. And then all those guys were so fast. They didn't hit any home runs, but
you can run around the bases as Willie McGee, though.
Oh, it was so great. So great. And then when I went to Sega, that NHLPA, the hockey game, 93, all I can remember is beating every single resident on my residence hall floor in that game and just claiming to be the best in the world at that video game. I always played with the Detroit Red Wings is who I played with.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask because I remember being good at that game, but only when I used the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah, that's who – I think in the sample game, that's who played against each other.
Yeah, because was that Mario Lemieux and I don't know. I might be dating myself.
It was Yager and Lemieux, and I had Yzerman and Fedorov. Oh, what a great game!
Yeah, hockey games are amazing. I don't really understand hockey and all the technology or the terms and twists of it all, but hockey video games are pretty great.
Yeah, they were.
You know what else is pretty great?
Our guest.
Well, yes, of course, our guest today. I'm really excited that we're welcoming Tyler Phelps to the show. Tyler is the Assistant Dean of Advising in the College of Arts and Sciences at WashU, Washington University in St. Louis. And honestly, let's rip off this Band-Aid. Tyler and I worked together for 7 years, and I tell this story often. I said it a couple weeks ago when I was at the Citadel presenting. Tyler Phelps, best advisor I've ever seen do it. Best advisor I've ever seen do it. And so we're going to talk a little bit today about his path and where he's at and what he's doing. And but we're happy to have you here with us, Tyler.
Good morning. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. It's nice to be here. I was listening to your chat before, and I'm I've got all these artifacts I'm at home in my office in the basement. So I agree, with the holiday world and Disney piece. So this kind of brings it all together. That is a
Oh yeah,
thermal
the Disney
Coke.
soda bomb.
It's a Coca-Cola thermal detonator from Star Wars.
Oh
And
yeah.
video games. I had an Odyssey growing up. I don't know if you've ever heard of that gaming system, Odyssey. Yeah, it was kind of in the same ballpark as yours, Brody. And then Cardinal baseball in 1985, RBI baseball,
I knew
unstoppable.
we'd
That
hit
in
you with
America.
Cardinal baseball. I knew that was coming.
Well, and see over my shoulder, you can't see it off screen. I've got a Willie McGee autograph picture, one of the greatest outfielders of all time.
Love
But
it.
no, that and the American League All-Stars. If you had that team on RBI baseball, you were just hitting home runs every batter. So
Yeah, that was a crazy team.
it was.
No doubt. That was such a great game. They used to have a national contest in RBI baseball, and it was in the suburbs
Really?
of Chicago. And I when I became an adult, when I was living in Northern Illinois, working there from 04 to 07, I actually went and thought about signing up to play, but then I got a little bit nervous.
It's fun to be in higher education and see the evolution of video game systems. When I was in undergrad, my roommate, it was 94. My roommate had a Super Nintendo, so we played Mario Kart like in between class all day long. And then you fast forward, and then I think like the PS1 came out, and then the PS2. And then by the time I transitioned into my career, I was in housing, and all the students had Halo. They were doing LAN. They would like plug into the networks and play Halo. So I could just hear people with their doors up and down the hall just gaming out. So yeah, it's been an adventure over the last 30 years.
Yeah, I have a hole from like 93 until now. So everything you just talked about is like a foreign language to me.
Oh,
Except
no
for
way.
Fortnite.
Except for Fortnite.
Oh, I can't do it. Yeah, that and Roblox. I've got both my kids. Fortnite, Roblox. So
yeah, they might be playing against Brody. You don't know.
Brody.
They're losing if they are.
Yes,
That's awesome.
that's quite the brag point there. You're beating children.
Let's not edit that, please.
Listen, Matt marked it down right there. This is coming. Hey, so we should talk about higher education sometime.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hey, so this is one of these things where maybe it's aspirational, maybe it's not. Assistant Dean of Advising. So listen, you're walking into a vegetarian cookout. We're just going to use that for this framing. And someone asks you, what do you do? Like, what do you tell them?
I support students in all ways, shapes, and forms. As noted, I worked previously with Kevin. Got my start in advising like almost 20 years ago. And just over the years, it's evolved. Right now, my primary duties are to support undergraduates in the College of Arts and Sciences at Washington University or WashU. And I also assist with, student progress, academic success, retention, overall assisting students with that transition to college and helping them not only succeed academically, but, socially and helping them get connected with opportunities, whether it be in research, whether it be, vocational in nature, just making sure they're engaged and connected to the resources that we offer across campus. It's what advisors do across the country, across the world. Our role is to make sure that students are succeeding, making sure that they're finding what they need and finding their place and, evolving as students. It's wonderful.
You spent 12 years at SIUE. That's a long time, really long enough to build something. What did that decade plus teach you about the slow and maybe unglamorous work of actually improving student success at an institution?
That's an awesome question. Well, first of all, I had incredible leaders. A director at the time, Cheryl Tucker, brought me on. I had worked in housing previously, as I noted, and I took a break from higher ed. Worked in housing. I had worked in new student programming, all kinds of things. But those weekends, those nights and weekends, I wanted that back. I wanted to have that, with my family. So I got out of higher ed for 2 years, and then I got married, started my life, and I thought, you know what? I want to go back in, but I've got to figure out another way. At that point, I had a master's degree in communication studies, so I could teach, as an adjunct. But I was like, you know what? I want to be on the academic side of the table, and I want to be able to engage with students and help them figure out the journey. So I said, it's got to be advising. And lo and behold, a position opened at SIUE. I applied. Thankfully, Cheryl saw my background in housing, knew what I could bring to the table. So started there January 3rd of 08. And over time, as I got into it, the first few years, it was just kind of like riding a bike. You go back, oftentimes advisors will reflect on their own advising experience, how they were advised as undergrads, what worked, what didn't. So I used a lot of that. No theory, no background in student personnel administration, no background in student development theory. It was just basically my experience and conversation with others. And as time progressed, that's when Kevin came to SIUE. We started collaborating together in his Office of Retention and Student Success. And around that time, I started thinking, okay, you know what? I love higher ed. I'm back. I'm going to stay the rest of my life. Might as well go ahead and pursue a doctoral degree, some terminal degree of something. So went over to St. Louis University and pursued a degree in higher ed administration. And it was at that time that I actually started reading student development theory and all this other information. I'm like, wow, this adds so much more to it. I was nerding out with Aston and Jenny Bloom's appreciative advising, all this different stuff with Nakata, and everything started to make more sense. And not only that, I found that, I had tools in the toolbox. Some of them I didn't know what they were for.
Sure.
When I started reading theory, it's like, wow, I can approach this situation differently, or I can connect it with this student in a way I hadn't previously considered. And so I would say, over that time, not only did I develop professionally, we also brought an incredible team together, many individuals. It was really cool. There was about 10 of us concurrently, all pursuing terminal degrees. Wow. In one office. And to have that many individuals, and we were all at different institutions. So you would learn things at an institution or in a conversation in a class, and you would bring it back, and we'd sit back at lunch, or we'd have coffee in the morning, and people just, hanging out, and just some really dynamic conversations, some great ideas. And it really was. I told Kevin at one point, I said, I didn't realize how good we had it, really being able to absorb not only the experience, but doing it together, and just seeing, what we're capable, that synergy that's created. I always go back to, like the Chicago Bulls of the 1990s, and the latter half, not the first half, the latter half with Rodman and everybody. There was some synergy going. 72-10. Yeah. You talk about musicians. Kevin wrote a piece recently in the Academic Advising Quarterly magazine about artists, advising as an art. And I love the Grateful Dead. It's my number. In fact, I got a poster over this shoulder. That's Miles Davis and the Grateful Dead, 1970.
I love Miles Davis.
So
let's go.
I know that collective improvisation that happens when not only between professionals, practitioners, but between an advisor and a student in the advising appointment, there's some magic that goes on. I know, Brody, you also wrote an article. I'm still plugging horribly here. In the Academic Advising Quarterly about the 30-minute.
You're doing just great, Tyler. The check's in the mail.
Aha. So the third, and it's a Matt Markin production. So, but it was the power of the 30-minute meeting. And you were talking, in fact, I wrote the quote down because it was so profound. It says, the power of the 30-minute meeting has never been about just perfectly constructing 4-year plans. Here it is. It lies in the quality of our presence we bring to an individual conversation. And that
you wrote that?
I wrote that. Brody did.
Goodness gracious, Brody.
Man, it was magical. And as soon as I read it, I'm like, and there it is. Yeah. There it is. That is the key to, I think, any conversation you have with a student. It's proactive listening. It's hearing what they say and connecting with them in a way that it builds trust, that they know you're all in to support them. And like I said, that can happen between colleagues. It can happen with administrators. And when it does, it's like bottling lightning, because all of a sudden things start to happen. The 90s Bulls, the Grateful Dead, when you get individuals who are passionate about what they do, who are talented and gifted, who have great ideas and who trust, sky's the limit. You can do anything.
All right. So I have to interject here. When Brody said, I'm going to write the 30-minute meeting article, the first thing that came to my mind is the greatest advisor I know very rarely hit 30 minutes in his advising appointment. Tyler, like, if you were going to write the article, what is the time frame that makes sense?
So that's a great question. So traditionally, I've always done 30-minute appointments. I think and it depends on the population. My first year students, I love 45. You give me 45, an hour at that point, they're so exhausted listening to me and having a conversation like, who is this dude? He's like out there. I don't want to scare them off, but 30 minutes is good. I've also recently at WashU, because of student schedules and challenges, I do offer 15 minutes. But rarely is that something where we're going to sit down and do academic planning. It's more come in, you got something on your mind, you have a quick question, you need me to bend your mind or hook you up with a resource or point you in the right direction. So I do 15 minutes, in person, Zoom, advising from the cloud, asynchronous, whatever. We talk about meeting the students where they are, but it's also when they are. And, if a student needs me to connect with them at a particular hour that works best, so be it. It's all about, like I said, at the end of the day, I've had my academic journey. I've had my experience. I'm living a dream. I can't believe I get to do what I do. And so it's all about the students. Whatever they need, hit me up.
The thing from an experience standpoint, until recently for you, is the three of us on this call, while also being three follically challenged brothers again. This is becoming a theme of our guests that we only associate with bald men. But beyond that being the case, you're at WashU, right? Like This is a premier institution in our country. It does some very exciting things. And I think that when we work in public institutions or, a lot of our experience in regional publics, it's like we don't really have a good gist of an understanding of how it works on that type of campus. So to us and to the audience that may not, or that may be in that same boat, like how does the switch to private education, is it really a difference? Are there things that we think about and we're like, oh, it's probably the same, and you're like, it is not the same? Like, what are those things that stand out to you?
That's a great question. And my background, I said earlier, my doctoral studies were at SLU. That was night class. SLU being a Jesuit private university. My background is predominantly public. I mean, as you can see, Eastern Illinois University alum, both bachelor's and master's degree. SIUE is a public institution, worked at Eastern as well, public. So I have, 20 plus years in the public environment. And so, when you transfer to a private university and start working there are differences. I just completed my 4th year at WashU. So I told a couple of my colleagues, I said, okay, I've done 4 years. So that's basically the undergrad journey. I've seen, I had students come in as first year students. I've seen them graduate. I've heard the narratives. I've seen the experience. And believe it or not, there are significant similarities. I mean, the students, the same obstacles and barriers that a student faces in a public institution, those same obstacles and barriers oftentimes are in a private institution. There may be different traditions, but I think you find that on every campus. I think the biggest thing is just the number of students who are from everywhere. Like being in public regional, many of the students I worked with were from that state or within a 100-mile radius. I'm now working with students. A majority of my students are not from the St. Louis region. They're from the East Coast and the West. I've got more students from New York and California than I do from Illinois or Missouri. I have more students who are on F1 and J1 visas than I do, students in the region as well. So it really is quite dynamic. And it's exciting to hear these students' backgrounds, to hear their stories, to hear why they chose to come to the middle of the country, the middle of the United States to study at Washington University. The overall experience has been enlightening, as someone who studies higher education. My favorite, as we were talking about student development theory, I'm a nerd. My favorite scholar is Alexander Aston. There was something about Aston when I first got into my doctoral program. I read a couple of, student involvement pieces, and I'm like, yes, this makes sense. And then I went down the rabbit hole. And one of the things that has really stuck with me and guided my profession is his research, review, and publications on the environment. And really, when I came to WashU, that was something that I started collecting artifacts because, again, I'm a nerd. I like collecting things. Started collecting artifacts around the university and really interviewing not only faculty and staff, but students and hearing their narratives and giving, filling in those puzzle pieces. Because that there are learning centers to support with writing and mathematics across the country. There's advising. We have a decentralized model where we have different the College of Arts and Sciences, our Olin Business School, our McKelvey School of Engineering, and our Sam Fox School of Art and Design. Each one of those 4 areas have their own advisors. So you'll see some similarities. Like I said, there are similarities with public, there are similarities with private. But yeah, it's a really cool environment at WashU.
Tyler, you've talked a little bit about the magic, right, that happens in those 30-minute sessions or 15-minute sessions or hour or 90-minute long sessions. What are some of the biggest mistakes advisors make, even well-intentioned ones, you think?
Oh, that's a great question as well, Brody. I think the greatest mistake is assuming you know why the student is there. You know, oftentimes, like this time of year, many of my appointments, I know why they're coming in. They're coming in for the fall semester, talk about maybe summer options. But I try to encourage, colleagues, even myself going back into study, try to bottle your bias, that epoche, trying to anything that you think could be going on, try to put that on the shelf when the student comes in. You may think, wow, this is their schedule for the semester. They may be coming in to share with me they're failing. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're coming in to tell you that they're acing their classes. This is what they want to do the rest of their life. So I think the big thing is just, when a student comes in, when you sit down and ask them how they're doing or ask how the semester is going, really engage and listen. Hear what their words. Nonverbals speak louder, sometimes than words. And to engage with the student and hear that, sometimes you got to read between the lines. The student is, make sure to even throw resources out there when they're not asking for them. Let them know that you care. And I think sometimes, if an advisor is having a bad day, or if an advisor, somebody stood them up on an appointment or hasn't replied to an email, sometimes they let that frustration kind of roll over into their dialogue. Absolutely. And a student may not remember, and this is something I know that many have heard before, but a student may not remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And the last thing we want to do is marginalize our students. So no, I would say just, be genuine with them. When they cry with them. When they're celebrating, celebrate with them. And just remember that you are, while they're going through this journey, you're an important tool, an important instrument. You're a compass that will help guide them. So yeah, I would say that's the biggest thing, is just remember that everybody has a different story. Everybody has a different experience. You don't know maybe what's going on in their life outside of class. So just be there. You might be the most positive thing they engage with for the day. So support them, be present.
Tyler, I love that, because it's really what makes advising so exciting and so rewarding, right? Is that every individual encounter has the opportunity to be amazingly different, but equally stunning and fun and exciting, sometimes challenging, but it's really what keeps advisors coming back, I think, to the profession.
Oh, absolutely. And it's when I worked in housing, it was the part that I enjoyed. It's like, I would sit down and have a judicial with a student who was caught, breaking the rules in the building or something, or I just hang out in the lobby and chat with students. And those conversations where I was like, I can't believe I get paid to have conversations with students. Yeah. And then later on, as I started to learn more about advising practice, and Kevin was very instrumental in me getting involved in NACADA. He's like, you got to check this out. And I remember going to my first event. It was in Minnesota, 2014. I'd never flown on a plane before. And Kevin's like, dude, seriously, man, I know, I was sheltered. Kevin broke me out. He broke me out of my shell. Yeah. So it's funny. So he made me go to Minnesota in 2014. He's like, you're going to do this prospective interest group. And I'm like, what do I do? And he goes, you figure it out. And he got me connected with Jess Staten, who's over at IU. And Jess took me under her wing, and he's like, okay, this is how we're going to do this. And it really opened my, we're checking into the hotel. I just got off a plane, my first flight. I get out of the hotel. I'm nerding out. And Kevin's like, watch this. And he goes over to check in, and he's like, it's Charlie Nutt. And I was like, are you serious? For real? And he goes, yeah. And he introduced me to Charlie Nutt. And I was like, this is the coolest day ever. And, fast forward a few years later, we've got the St. Louis annual conference. Kevin's chairing that committee. I get to be a part of that. I get to meet Oscar. We're stuffing bags. I connect with Terry Farr, and I'm connected with Jenny Bloom. I get my picture taken with Jenny Bloom. I'm like, it's like my field of dreams. This is my heaven. And I got to go to Dublin and present a concurrent session the year after that. And, I got to reconnect with Oscar while we were in Ireland. So really, Kevin has been foundational in my professional development, has always been there to encourage, learning about advising, learning about theory, reading about, Wes Habley and all these old school articles, and just knowing the foundation, where we've been, where we're at, and where we could potentially go here in the 21st century. So, yeah.
Brody, I don't remember the question that we started with there, but
I don't
whatever
either.
question that is, we should do that more often, because that was a good one for me.
Yeah.
I felt like I won on that one.
You did win.
I did.
I mean, he's got those pictures of Charlie and Jennifer Bloom in his office. The picture he sent us, that's just on his phone.
That's right.
No, it is. I mean, there is a level of, I could go into an airport and you could have some, 21st century athlete. I'm not, I don't watch a lot of sports anymore. You could have athletes in there. I wouldn't know it, but if you had some student development theorist, I'd be like, are you so-and-so? So yeah, I nerd out on scholarship. I love when I read an article or get a chance to connect with somebody. Yeah, it's the coolest thing ever.
I think your students can feel that energy, and you were talking about, what is the mistakes that advisors can make, and you started to tell a story there that I think is pertinent, in that, like, your approach to every appointment is so personal that, like, at the end of the day, when we worked down the hall from each other, you would come to me and it was like you'd read 8 books that day, right? As you met with 8 different students, like, you'd gone through this journey, and you were so excited about every one of the books. Well, maybe 7 of the 8. Like, you probably had like a dud in there every once in a while, right? Like, but like you did really, you just enjoyed that. And so when you and I got together recently and just talked about life and higher ed and how things are going, at the very end of it, you reached up and you go, oh, hey, and I recently won Advisor of the Year at WashU. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, this was like, and as we're going off screen, and I'm like, well, that's great, man, congrats. And then, like, we kind of faded out. And so I know you're going to say the awards aren't why I do it. And I get that. But what does that type of recognition mean to you? And when that happened, was there a student or a moment that immediately came to mind when you were selected for that?
That's a great question. Thanks for acknowledging that. So my career trajectory, I started, as we said, in advising in 2008, started to transition into administration whenever I was pursuing my doctoral degree, had an opportunity to work in administration, and there came a period where I stepped away and I said, you know what, I got to reflect on what comes next. And, I was given an opportunity at WashU by a practitioner, Leah Frierson, hired me in the College of Arts and Sciences. And I came in, and the first question she asked, she goes, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? She goes, I've looked at your resume. Why are you stepping back into the advising role? And at that point, I think, we were in the pandemic. I think there was some burnout. And I was like, I've got to fall in love with higher ed again. It's what my doctoral degree is in. It's what I do. But there was something missing. And so as I stepped back into advising, it was kind of like learning how to play again, because like I said, I had advised, I had been an administrator, and then you're going back into a role that you first began, but I'm not the same person. I've changed. I've had different experiences. And so to be recognized, it felt good. It's kind of how Stella got her groove back. I felt like I'm finding my voice again. So it's nice to be acknowledged. But again, at the end of the day, my hopes are is that, even if I can get through to one student, there was a little card that I used to have hanging in my office. It was the story about the starfish on the beach after the storm.
Oh, yeah.
And how the kid was walking along and tossing it back in. And the old man's like, look at all these starfish. You're wasting your time. It doesn't even matter. And the kid picked up and he goes, mattered to that one. And that really has been the core of my entire advising philosophy, is that my hopes are is that I can help be a stone on a path for a student to find success. We were talking about video games earlier. You remember Legend of Zelda was one of my favorites on the NES. And there was that little old bald guy that had a beard and a robe, and he'd be like, Dodongo dislikes smoke. Or, he'd give you like random little hints along your path or along your journey. And I kind of feel like that dude. I'm letting the beard grow out. And when my students come in, my hopes are is, even if they don't need me for anything else, they're getting all the development, all the support, either through their peers or other entities throughout campus. My hopes are is when they come in, I'm at least able to provide the support and the guidance they're needing at that time to get to the next stop, to get to the next level, to get to the next place in their journey. It's not about me. It's about them. And, I'm grateful that I have this opportunity in 2026 to sit down with students and really, find out, you want to go to med school. Okay, well, let's talk about what that means and what you're going to have to do. Or you're thinking about going on and get a graduate degree, or you're thinking about finding an internship, or you don't even know what you want to do, and yet you're spending all this money on your degree. Let's sit down and have a conversation and figure out what other instruments, tools we need to get you connected with to get this experience moving. I think that's one of the hardest things in an advisor is when a student comes in, you could see it in their face. They're stressed, overwhelmed. I want to do this, but it's not working. I've got students that come in like, I'd love to go to medical school, but I can't get through gen chem. I can't get through biology or physics. And it's like, okay, let's pivot. Let's go with a strengths-based approach, or let's look at this and how can we figure out, maybe you don't become a medical doctor, but maybe we find a field where you're still working with patients or you're working with others and helping them. And I guess that's kind of, I can get an award, I can get recognized, but at the end of the day, it's about helping those students figuring out their purpose, what they need to do while they're there. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just a person in the crowd that they get to pass. And my hopes are is that I get to connect with them.
Hey, Tyler, does the different set of pressures, maybe even from 5 years ago, that are impacting students, mental health, costs, uncertainty about what a degree is worth, has that changed your advising practice at all? Like these new pressures that students are facing?
Absolutely. No, that's it's so important that we recognize all the obstacles. Back in the 90s, I think that it was a totally different world. Even the turn of the millennium was different. Even pre-pandemic, the experiences we were having was different. Life is hard right now. For many, life has been hard. And to be able to help these students, if it's not at WashU, if it's not at this other institution, then what are you doing? And helping them with their vocational purpose. That's one of the committees that I'm getting to participate on at our college is our literacies for life and career. And, we're really looking at vocational pieces. What are you doing to prepare not only with your courses while you're here, but during the summer? How can we make sure you get your return on your investment? What is the best way? If I hear a student, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, I'm trying to circle it back. How does it connect with the degree? How does it connect with why you're here? And with those students that don't know why, well, let's figure that out. Let's figure out what your why is. And then from there, we can start building and constructing. But yeah, when you talk about the financial pressures and everything else, it's prevalent. Students' mental health is so important. I always tell my students, they're the most important variable in the entire academic journey. We've got to be mindful of your best interest and making sure that you're where you need to be in order to succeed.
That's fantastic.
The cutting edge part of your existence in higher education, I will refer to as your dissertation.
Oh, man.
And kind of how the timing of all that worked, right? Like you referred to it earlier as that cloud advising, the asynchronous advising, and you got to talk time frame here. We're talking, what was that, 2016, 2017? And pre-COVID, you're having a conversation about essentially sending advising videos to students so that when they came in for the appointment, or if they came in for the appointment, that it could be relational in approach and not focus just in the curriculum, but you were building the relationship even within the video. And so I always thought it was super cool, especially because most of us weren't talking about asynchronous anything until 2020.
Right.
But then the evolution that's occurred since then with AI and advising, chat box, predictive analytics, early alert systems. There's so many aspects of this, but so much of what you talk about is relational in approach and relational in building. How are you still embracing technology in what you're doing and still thriving with your students in the work that you do?
That's an awesome question. Thank you. Yeah. The asynchronous piece came about around 2013, 2014. That's when it first started. Brody, what happened was I was sitting with Kevin one day and I was talking about barriers to student success. And I went back to my office and I sat down and closed my door. And for the rest of the day, 5 or 6 hours, I started walking around not only the building, our office, campus, sitting down. And I said, what are the barriers that are students? Physical. What are the physical barriers? There's a desk in the office. Does the door frame, is it wide enough where students who may use a motorized cart, are they able to get in? Where is everything located? How tall is the counter? And I just started rattling off barriers. And I'm like, okay, psychosocial barriers. What are some barriers? And technological barriers. You've got the digital divide. And then it came down to time. Time is also a barrier. Where our office is open from 8 until 4:30. But students are students beyond those times. So I just started brainstorming and thinking about some things. And one day, I'll never forget, I had a student contact me, called me and said, I work during the day. I don't have the ability to take time off. I'm not taking a vacation day to come in for advising. How can we do this? And I said, well, we can, I can email you. We can do it for what would work best for you? And he was going through some ideas. I said, you know what? Let me make you a video and I'll email it to you. And let's see. And that was the start of it. That was the first video. It was just a few minutes long. I sent it to the guy. He came back and he goes, that is exactly what I needed. And I thought, okay, we're on to something. And this was about the time that Snapchat was, I think, is it Snapchat, the one that has the ghost?
Yeah.
All these videos started like video communication. And, my background, bachelor's and master's, is in communication studies. So interpersonal, public relations, all this. So I was really able to apply that piece. And, by 2017, I was like, okay, asynchronous advising via video. That's why I kept coming. And Kevin's like, dude, you got to think of a better name. And I was like, asynchronous advising via video. That's what it is. And then cloud, advising from the cloud, because that's where we would store. It was behind firewalls. You could put the PDFs. You could put every document, everything out there and password protected. So the student had access to their information only. And it went well. That's why I went to Dublin to present on asynchronous advising. It was great because I was there. And I remember getting done with the presentation and one person came up to like, I don't get it. I was like, okay, it's like video email. It's like video. And then as soon as the pandemic hit, I started getting emails from other people who are like, no, it makes sense. I'm like, there we are. So
they wrote you a letter. It's like,
it's like, so, but no, as far as now with technology, like I said, the last few years, I've been kind of resetting and figuring things out. And, the use of QR codes is magnificent. Whether or not you have them on your campus, you have them for all your curriculum guides, instead of printing out 10,000 pages and having hanging on a wall, do you just have it where the students can scan it? But then you got to think, okay, does the student have a device that they can scan, or do they still need that document? With the current use, Zoom is now normal. We're using Zoom right now. Students use Zoom. They use other types of video communication. Really, as we move forward, I remember when we were in Atlanta for the national conference there. That was so another nerd out. I got a chance to connect with George Steele.
One of my dear friends.
Kevin, so he was at a presentation. Kevin's like, go to the front row. So I sat down in the front row. The whole time I'm just like, that's George Steele. That's like Virginia Gordon and George Steele. Like, that's Ohio State, George Steele. And finally, at the end of the presentation, Kevin made me stand up, walked me over, introduced me. And I didn't know what to say. And I was like, recommendation algorithms, like something just totally, because at that point, Amazon and Netflix, all these companies were starting to use, based on your prior watches or based on your previous purchase, we recommend you might be interested in this. I thought, what if this was 2016, 2017? Yeah. And I said, what if we started using that in academics with like student success? You find a student that's successful in a particular discipline. Do we recommend, based on your success here, maybe this might be an area for you to consider? And then you fast forward and now we're using AI. There will come a point, I'm sure, and I some of the AI stuff is already talking about, the user interface. There will probably come a point, much like a video game, where students will be able to create their student support network. They will be able to create people, all the different engagement, who the individuals are. They could even be animals. They may be people, whoever they want to connect with, and they'll be able to seek out guidance and advice. And that's great. It's going to be very prescriptive in nature. But the one thing that AI has not been able to do, and I know that they're going to, so many students at WashU and other campuses are studying computer science and AI and mathematics. It's almost like, going back to the Grateful Dead. I can listen to the Dead concerts, I can watch the videos, but the live experience. You guys are Cardinals fans. I'm sure watching a game versus going to a game, maybe not in the last few years because,
they're not very good.
Right. But But going to the game and sitting in the stands and breathing the air and having the experience and hearing the sounds and the conversation, there's something magical about that live experience, just like music, and it's just like advising. The one piece of that dissertation that stood out to me at the end was when students were providing their experience. It was a universal designed approach in advising. And the students' remarks were, I could see its benefit. I could see how it could be useful. However, I really prefer the face-to-face, in-time, real conversation. And as soon as they provided that feedback and we started coding and theming, I'm like, this is a benefit, this video asynchronous piece. But students really crave that individualized one-on-one conversation. They want to have a chat or a dialogue about them, about their dreams, their fears, their goals, and synchronously, asynchronously, whatever. That's at the end of the day when we bring it back. That's what it's about. Those conversations. What's happening in those? And I say in those four walls. Charlie Nett did a podcast years ago with Tony Duty from ACPA, and in that podcast, Charlie said, we've got to get rid of this notion that advising can only happen in an office in four walls. And that's the truth, and that was prophetic. That was a decade ago. So,
yeah, we're getting close to fun, I think, but I have one more serious question here, Tyler.
This whole thing has been fun.
Well, that's true. I guess let's be perfectly clear. I'm enjoying the heck out of myself, no doubt. 2/3 of Americans now say a 4-year degree isn't worth the cost, right? And you've spent your career helping students kind of navigate these waters. What's your response to that number, and what responsibility does higher ed have to earn that investment back?
That is a phenomenal question. I think that's something that we're all facing. When we talk about higher education, we have to go back. And when I say back, I'm not talking to the 1960s. I'm talking back. I'm talking, 1636, Harvard. I'm talking before we even started American higher ed. Higher ed has always been more about getting a job. And I think we've lost sight of that. Higher education, the college campus, the environment is a very unique place where individuals from different backgrounds, different beliefs, different experiences can come together, live together, share dialogue, opinions, and have their minds bent to new ideas. And I think at some point along the line, we've forgotten about that. I am so genuinely invested in higher ed because I know what it gave me. As an undergrad, it took me 6 years to get my bachelor's degree. Was all over the place with majors. Finally figured it out in the turn of the millennium. I'm still trying to figure it out, I think. But I digress. With the return on investment, we have pivoted. In the 1960s, there was a governor in California, Ronald Reagan, that said, I don't think we should have to pay for students to go to college to find themselves. They need to go figure out how they can be productive in society, get a job in that. And I think that's when we started to see this transition to more of the work. I think the big things when students come in, it's immediately saying, what are your passions? What are your interests? What are your talents? And then taking that and starting to identify long-term. One of the questions I asked my students on occasion, even my colleagues, I'm like, what's the last job you're ever going to have? When you're done, when you retire, when you hang it up and say, I'm no longer working or doing it, what is that job? When you have your retirement party, what's the environment? And I said, once you can identify that, now let's work our way back to where you are currently. And then by the time we work our way back to where you are and you turn around, you've just created a path on how to get to that end goal. Now, naturally, there are going to be some obstacles along the way. And hopefully the experience they have in college will educate them on how to navigate those obstacles. But yeah, I always tell students to dream big. If you're going to spend $100,000 to $150,000 on a degree, what are you going to do with that? Do you need the degree? Can you actually pursue the career that you're dreaming of or that you're retiring from without a degree? And if so, I feel it's our jobs as advisors to help those students pivot. You never know what's going to happen. They may start like, I don't need a 4-year degree. I'm going to go get an associate's or I'm going to go to tech school. But 5 years down the road, when they realize they want to go into management, they've got to come back and get a business degree or something like that. Like I said, I think it was C.S. Lewis that said the task of the modern educator is not to tear down jungles, but rather to irrigate deserts. our jobs as advisors to make sure that students are pursuing the correct degree paths, the correct majors, finding those opportunities during the summers or during the school year, those internships to help build them so that when they do graduate, they are ready to pivot and start that trajectory into their career or into that line where they'll end up retiring.
That's amazing. Thanks, Tom.
Brody, I'm going to pivot on this one a little bit too, and not quite go fun yet, although they've all been fun. Tyler, I think one of the things you mentioned earlier, and I would be remiss if we didn't talk about it, because I think our audience faces this, is you had a path in which you said, listen, I want to be an administrator. Like, that's my goal. I want to do it, right? And you've had some leadership lessons along the way of like saying, I've been a director, I've been in that role. Like, I made a decision to come back to something that felt more at home. Like, you know, what are the things that people don't think about in that moment? And like, what's something our audience could gain from the insight of your experience that could benefit them today?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just a little rationale really quick regarding the transition. So I was pursuing an opportunity. So when I started this journey, you know, I left EIU in 2005. When I got back into advising in 2008, my dream was, maybe I'll go back to Eastern Illinois University one day. Maybe I'll end up there and just spend the rest of my life. And my wife was she was invested. She's like, yes, let's do it. So as we were pivoting into we're using that word a lot, pivot. As we were transitioning into the pandemic, the opportunity for a director of advising position opened up there. And I was like, this is it. The universe heard me. And so I applied and I went to EIU. And during that time, I was working distance from my family. Long story short, my wife was given a promotion with her job. And she ended up earning more than me. And it was one of those moments. It's like, you know, she went to college too. She has dreams. I can't continue doing long distance from my family. You know, I want to be with them. I want to experience life with them. And this, you know, only seeing them on a weekend or, you know, every other weekend just wasn't cutting it. So at that point, I had to make a decision. And I decided to walk away from my dream job as an administrator at EIU. And when you have a dream, as I was telling, you know, just a moment ago, what were you going to retire from? The dream had always been to retire from EIU. That was I'm going to have a building named after me. I spent my whole life here. Like, this is it, residence hall, everything. And to let go of that dream and realize that, you know what, that's not going to happen. You kind of have to step back and think, well, now what? What am I going to do? So, you know, I stepped away and I gave myself 100 days to figure it out. And I figure it out, but I figured out that I got to do something in higher ed. Like I said earlier, and that's when I connected with Leah at WashU. The one thing I would encourage everyone out there is think long and hard about what you would do for free. Think long and hard about what brings you joy, what's not work. If you're thinking like, well, I go to work and then I want to do this instead, maybe you should just do that instead as a full-time job. I am grateful. I am blessed to get to work in higher ed, to work with students. So I would tell individuals, advise yourself. Reach out to your colleagues and have your colleagues advise you. You know, reconnecting with Kevin during that period and reconnecting with others like Pete Sasso, who's very active in ACPA and NASPA as a scholar. Others from, you know, the St. Louis region and around, just reconnecting them and trying to find out, like, what am I good at? What do I love? What would I do for free? And then dipping your toe in the water and just seeing if that's what works. And like I said, getting back into advising wasn't an easy transition. It took a few years. There were mistakes along the way. You know, I had to go back to doing manual degree audits. I had to learn a whole new student information system, had a whole new learning management, like all these different pieces. And I felt archaic. And here I am celebrating my 50th birthday this year. And I'm like, dude, you're ancient. Like, you're an advisor and you're fit. Yeah, like, and can an old dog learn new tricks? Absolutely. And so no, I would tell others, if you're out there and you're having obstacles and challenges, barriers, reach out. I mean, shoot, even if you don't want to reach out to any of your peers or colleagues, my email address is tylerp@woostel.edu or drtylerphelps@gmail.com. Hit me up. We'll have a Zoom, maybe some asynchronous.
That's great.
Love it. I think it's time for the lightning round.
Nice.
Lightning round.
All right, Tyler, you've made it through all of the difficult questions. So now it's the really difficult question.
Yes.
Oh, man. Okay. I'll do my best.
All right. So at some point in the last decade, you've become a vegetarian. And so what is the top vegetarian dish for you?
Oh, it's a great question. And I don't know the names. There are some cauliflower wings that are micro air fryer. So like if you ever go to Buffalo Wild Wings or any of the wings places, they have now introduced cauliflower wings, same breading. It's just cauliflower. That's my go-to all day long. That and sweet baby rays.
I love it.
That's great. Willie McGee in 5 words or fewer.
1982 World Series.
Fantastic.
That's beautiful.
What I love, swings at everything. That's what I love about that dude. He swung at everything. Like, forget about watchful eye. He could hit the ball if it was over his head, he could hit it if it was in the ground, like a golf ball. Amazing.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
What's one book every academic advisor should read? I know. This is probably the hardest question of the day.
Oh, Kevin, why would you do that? I'm stupid. I go back to Virginia Gordon. It's the one that just sticks out. Virginia Gordon's first academic advising handbook, the first edition.
That's great.
Love it.
Is there a guilty pleasure TV show?
There isn't. I don't watch much TV. I am excited about Ted Lasso, though, coming out with a new season. But no, like I'll watch. Okay, so I guess maybe the guys that mine gold up in Alaska, I enjoy that too.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
All right. And this is new to me, and I could be really wrong here. Yoga?
Meditation, yeah.
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 So is that a gateway to everything or just part of the norm?
No, yoga found me. I didn't find it. Meditation. It happened, it's been a decade ago. Learning how to become the observer of your thoughts.
First album that you loved that you'd still defend today?
De La Soul, 3 Feet High and Rising,
Oh,
1989.
What a great choice. Damn, Tyler, you brought that. I was thinking about that. I have 2, either Paul Simon's Graceland or U2's Joshua Tree, I think.
Oh, both classic. Yeah, I could talk music with you guys all day long. Yeah, I'm going back. I was 13, 1989, De La Soul.
What a great record. I have that on vinyl. Amazing.
All right, this may wrap us up. What is one thing that would surprise people most about you?
I don't know. What surprised?
I promise these are the hardest ones, aren't they?
What that surprised them about me? I don't know, that I wear multiple pairs of socks.
That does surprise.
I kind of forgot about that. That's right.
Yeah.
It surprised me, and I knew.
Yeah. In high school, I started wearing, I bought a pair of shoes. Growing up, didn't have everything, but bought a pair of shoes that were too big. So I had to double up my socks, and in some cases, triple them up just so they'd fit. And it stuck. Try it, Brody. Wear at least 2 pair of socks next time you put on a pair of shoes. It's like you're walking on pillows.
All right. Maybe I'll give that a go.
I love it. I can't wait to hear about it, Brody. You got to tell me about your sock wearing.
Tyler, this was fantastic.
You've been great, my friend. We appreciate you spending some time with us, and thanks for joining us on the pickup meeting.
Forever grateful. Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah. Oh.
Listen, it's one of these things where sometimes these episodes are going to go a little bit longer, and we got into the questions. And one of the things I always told Tyler is I said, you got to teach, man. Like, you got to teach, because hearing the lessons and hearing the stories and hearing the things that he knows about higher education, it just kind of takes me back to him being right down the hall and being able to hear those learnings and musings and insights every day. He's just fantastic.
The one thing that kind of stuck in my head was the importance of community with the advising space.
Yeah.
Listening to him talk about that cohort of folks that were all earning that terminal degree and being able to kind of sit in the theories and sit in the practice is such an underrated aspect of the community building that's so important to us being successful in our work. You know, we're kind of writing an article about, you know, the podcast and kind of these weak ties. But when you have people that you're working with on a regular basis, if you really engage them in discussion about the work, it's just really helpful.
Yeah. And I think back often to walking to the lunch room that the advising team would meet in. And Tyler's not lying, you know, like there's a lot of things that he's just like, I don't really care. Food is one of them, right? Like when he switched to become a vegetarian, you know, all of a sudden it was like, I don't really like, I'm gonna eat some beans today, you know, just like it wasn't anything he cared about, but he cared about the community and that time that he got. And so he found ways to still interact. And that was always something really special. But
yeah. So we were thinking about vegetarianism, like the meals for non-vegetarians. You and I are both big still fans of meat.
I'm still focused on the steak at the Canadian Steakhouse in Epcot, right? It's still there.
I absolutely. But if we had to choose our top 3 vegetarian meals, what would they be? Like that's our top 3 today.
I know. And honestly, I thought this would be hard to come up with 3, and it really wasn't.
No.
Right? Like I don't think I could become a vegetarian. It's not a choice I'm going to make, but I don't think it would be impossible because the first 3 that came to mind for me really quick were like, yeah, those are good. And then as I was walking around today, I'm like, but you know what? Like I love a veggie pizza, right? Like you put all those vegetables on it, I'm good. So like the things that came to mind for me, mac and cheese, sign me up, man. Like put it in a bowl and let me just scoop it out all day long. Let's go. I'm a big stuffed peppers fan, right? Like I like peppers a lot. I would eat those. And like, I think I could do that meal all the time.
Sure.
And then this is kind of a crazy thing, but like I eat a lot of salads and I love a good salad. If you get a good salad, I don't need any meat on that thing. I go all day. Like, let's eat some salad. It is delicious. What do you got on your list?
Well, I grew up Catholic, so Fridays were no meat Fridays, right? For Lent.
Well, yeah, but you could have fish, Brody.
I hate fish, that's kind of limited. Remember, I mean,
I know.
So I would say one thing that's a little bit different than what you've mentioned. I mean, I love a good bean burrito. Like the Taco Bell bean burrito may be the perfect cheap vegetarian food. It's just amazing, and a lot of Mexican restaurants do great bean burritos, but that's fun. And look, peanut butter and jelly. How can you ruin that?
Oh, how did I forget?
How can you ruin peanut butter and jelly? I mean, it's a perfect vegetarian option for a meat eater.
Get an Uncrustable. I'm making the Uncrustable shape. Get an Uncrustable and put that thing in the freezer. You're welcome, world.
And look, plenty of breakfast. I loved a good fried egg sandwich.
Yeah.
Put a little cheese on there, some salt and pepper, some butter on the bread. You're like, let's go.
Gosh dang it, it's not even close to lunch and I am starving.
So we did pretty good for a top 3 there.
Yeah,
we could make it as vegetarians if we had to. Good job us.
Yeah.
But really, Tyler stole the show. Let's be completely honest. All right, folks, we're up against it on time. That's it for this edition of the Pickup Meeting. Hey, we hope your own meetings, formal or pickup style, are as meaningful and as fun as this one. Until next time, let's do good and be nice.